Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you what I cooked for my family of 4 for the week.
Where's my pizza? I want pictures.
I'm going to start this video off with some sunflowers that we just picked at the sunflower patch. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I love having fresh flowers in the kitchen. Makes me feel like I have a garden inside the house, especially when I'm cooking so much inside. I like to have that around when I'm cooking. So today was a really unique morning. We were going to a friend's house for a barbecue, for lunch barbecue, and I forgot that they had asked us to bring a dessert for the kids. And so I, at the last minute, was trying to prepare something. I decided to make an apple crisp. We have so many apples. You just saw me pour a bag of apples. We have several dozen apples. So I thought, whatever I make, it's gonna have apples in it. So for this apple crisp, I'm just gonna combine apples with cinnamon, salt, a little bit of sugar and maple syrup, combine that together, and then I'm gonna get a pie pan and coat it with butter. What's nice about this recipe is you don't have to make a pie dough ahead of time, so this can be done relatively quickly. I'm gonna pour the apples into the pie pan, and at the same time, I'm gonna melt some butter on the stove. Then in another bowl, I'm going to combine some flour, some oatmeal, some brown sugar, and some more cinnamon and the melted butter to create a crumble topping. I looked up a apple crisp recipe for this recipe and then modified it to use einkorn flour and the ingredients I had on hand. So unfortunately I don't have precise measurements, but if you can look at what I'm doing and loosely copy it, you will be just fine. It was a very simple recipe. You're just baking apples with some sugar and flour coated oats over the top. This was a huge hit at the party and it was a great recipe to make at the very last second. We were almost late to this party, so you see my whole family rushing in here to assist in making this apple crisp. Right as it came out of the oven, we got in the car and I held it on my lap in the car on the long drive up to our friend's house while it was still hot, and we had to sit there and smell it without eating it, which was torture. Thank you to Glurk Bikes for sponsoring this video. Amongst the beautiful fall food, colors, and scents also comes change of weather, falling leaves, and change of scenery. I love the cool, crisp mornings, the cold breeze that you get during the day. Even if it's still sunny outside, it just doesn't feel the same as the muggy summer days. We have a trail near our house that we will be spending so much time on this fall. I want to tell you about a company that creates bikes for children named Glurk. Glurk bikes are perfect for the first-time riders. My daughter is just starting to learn how to pedal and use training wheels. We also have little toddler bikes that have no wheels at all the way up through big kid bikes. The bikes come 85% assembled, and the remaining takes about 20 to 30 minutes to assemble on your own. When we were taking everything out of the box, my daughter noticed it also comes with free stickers, so she was anxious to put those on her helmet right away. My husband got this done in a pretty short amount of time, and we love the colors of this bike. I love that it's a little bit vintage looking and a little bit neutral as well. I didn't want something super hot and bright pink because I wanted it to be able to last with her and with her family for a long time. This will be a great first bike for her, and I can't wait to take it more on the trail. The bike has a durable steel frame, back coast brake and a front brake, removable training wheels, adjustable quick release seat, adjustable handlebar, fully enclosed chain guards, bell and reflectors, and it comes with a wicker basket for the front and stickers. If you are looking for a new bike for your little one or just to update your existing bike, check out Glurk Bikes at my link below and use code TDH for $10 off your purchase. Thank you, Glurk Bikes, for sponsoring this video. Now that it is September, we had my son's 1-year-old birthday. We also had my mom's birthday, and we are also taking a trip in a couple of weeks. So we have a very busy month ahead. So I thought it would be a good time now to swap out my porch plants. They are definitely looking weathered from the summertime. And luckily I found these chrysanthemums at our local hardware store. We were planning a 1-year-old birthday party for my son, and so I wanted to make sure that we had some fresh flowers on the porch. One of the things I love about September is it's definitely the kickoff to fall, and I love love that change over that you do, turning the page to a new season, closing the chapter on summer, and entering the new one of fall. Changing the flowers on the porch, to me, feels like changing the laundry. It just feels cleaner, feels nicer, and I'm so happy that I took the time to do that, especially before his birthday party. I'm going to quickly make a blueberry jam. We have a lot of fresh blueberries right now, and I'm going to be making a sourdough cake for my son's first birthday. Because he's a boy, I wanted to use blue. I actually just made the same cake for my daughter for her birthday, and I used strawberries to make it pink. Nonetheless, I have found so much success using my berries in this way to create jam. I just put them on the stove, simmer them for a while until they are jam consistency, and that's been working really, really well for us. If you're watching all my videos, you're probably getting tired of me showing my homemade jam, but truthfully, it has been so good for our family to use up fruit in that way. While I have some free time this afternoon, I'm gonna make a batch of cookie dough. Lately, we have been loving freezing cookie dough balls, putting them in the freezer, pulling them out when we want a delicious treat. So I'm gonna be starting this. My daughter came out of her quiet time in the middle of me doing this, and so I thought I would just go ahead and let her help me. She loves working with me in the kitchen, and I try to savor all of the moments that she's up there on the countertop with me as well. Now, as many of you moms with toddlers know, they are still learning how to pour things, and my daughter, I gave her the vanilla extract, probably shouldn't have done that, and she poured way too much in the bowl. So in that moment, immediately I decided to make a double batch because I didn't want all my ingredients to go to waste, and I think it was too much vanilla to just do a single batch. And luckily, this is a recipe I'm gonna freeze anyway, so making a double batch is just gonna make it that much easier for me to keep these in the freezer and enjoy them for longer. I have the recipe for these on the blog, theduvallhomestead.com. Just look up brown butter einkorn cookies. I'll also try to link it below. You can make them with regular flour, or we love einkorn flour. We are gonna get started on making dinner now, and when I don't know what to make, I often go for sourdough pizza because it's delicious, it's pretty easy, and it's a good way to use up leftovers. I tend to just open my fridge and whatever's in there goes on the pizza. This is a sourdough pizza dough that I have been using for years that we really like. You can long ferment it or just make it with discard ready to go. You're gonna combine 1 cup sourdough starter, 2.5 cups flour, 1/2 cup warm water, and 1.5 teaspoons salt. Combine that with a mixer, and if you have to add more water for it to come together, add more water, about 1 teaspoon at a time. You wanna let the dough rest for at least 30 minutes before you roll it out, or up to a couple of days. I'm gonna roll it out and put it on a cast iron skillet that's been preheated nice and hot. Drizzle some avocado oil on the skillet before you put the dough down. Once you put the dough down, then you drizzle avocado oil on top. Sprinkle it with seasonings. I usually make my homemade one with garlic and onion powder, salt, herbs, all that stuff, but this was a rushed kind of evening where I was just trying to get food on the table, so I used Kinder's seasoning that is delicious. We are a big fan of those seasonings. I'm pouring out all the leftovers from my fridge. Like I said before, we have chicken and we have a bunch of tomatoes. I've got some taco meat. I find that leftover taco meat is really good on pizza. We've got some basil, and I'm just gonna throw this all on. I'm gonna be making one pizza that is a tomato basil with taco meat and cheese and a little bit of red sauce. Sprinkle it with some garlic powder. The other pizza is going to be chicken and pesto. I didn't get a shot of this, but I had a bunch of leftover pesto. I went ahead and spread it on this pizza, as well as some fresh basil. Cook them in the cast iron in the oven at 450 for 10 minutes. And I should have mentioned, I also cooked the crust for 10 minutes before adding the toppings. I'm gonna try to tidy up a little bit so that we have a nice ambiance for dinner. Ideally, I'd like to do this every night, but I don't get to it every night realistically. Sometimes it's a very chaotic scene trying to eat a meal, but other times it's surprisingly calm and it all just comes together. I think this was probably a Friday night. I think my husband took the kids outside because I don't see them in this shot here. So now that the food is ready, they should be coming in anytime. Everyone really enjoyed this meal. We got the kids to bed, and it is time for my favorite part of the day, which is when my husband and I sit down and we get to have a fresh cookie. I'm gonna roll out all of the cookie dough balls. This is a lot of work tonight, but guess when it won't be a lot of work? Tomorrow and the next day when I don't have to do anything other than put the cookie dough ball in the oven.
So I just rolled all these out with an ice cream scooper, put them in a bag, and in the freezer they go. And I'm gonna pop these ones in the oven for us, and we're gonna enjoy this with our salad. Fun fact is we like to eat salad late at night after the kids go to bed. I used to eat salad with my dinner like most people, but it's just too much for me to prepare. I find that it's a little bit stressful, especially at the dinner hour. The kids are tired and I just don't have the time to eat it. I don't want to have to rush eating it. I've had a few people ask me about my homemade salad dressing recipe, and it is avocado or olive oil, Dijon mustard, apple cider vinegar, salt and pepper. And the measurements are, I'm gonna say about 4 parts oil, 1 part vinegar, half a part mustard, if that makes sense. We're gonna make so many things today. So as you heard, this is gonna be a cooking marathon day for me. I decided I needed to have the kids go out of the house for the day. They went with the grandparents and my husband, and they went and had a great time while I prepared for the birthday party the next day. I'm gonna start by taking my sourdough starter out as usual and making the sourdough cake. I'm looking at my phone for the recipe, and the recipe is 1 cup fed active sourdough starter, 1 cup milk, and 2 cups flour. So I'm going to combine that together and let that sit, and then I will add the rest of the ingredients. The rest of the ingredients are 1 cup sugar. I've used coconut sugar in this before, which is really good. Today I'm using regular sugar. Half a cup maple syrup, 1/4 cup melted coconut oil that's been cooled slightly, half a cup butter melted and also cooled slightly, 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon almond extract, 1.5 teaspoons baking soda, 2 eggs, and you add all of that to the sourdough mixture. So that's your cake batter, and then you're gonna line 2 cake baking trays with parchment paper. I find it's easiest to cut them into a small circle so that they're not kind of crinkled around the cake and causing the cake to wrinkle on the edges, if that makes sense. If I was being more precise, I probably would have cut it even smaller, but this did work out just fine. And you're going to cook at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes or until a knife inserted in the middle comes out clean. Okay, now I'm gonna make homemade meatballs. I really wanted to make something that would be easy to serve at a party for several adults and a bunch of kids. Meatballs came to mind. I like homemade meatballs because I can prepare them in advance, cook them, put them in the fridge, and then put some sauce on them for the day of the party, and they will be delicious and ready to go. My goal, of course, is always to do the least amount on the day of a party or anytime we're hosting people. So if I can prepare something the day before, that's what I'm gonna do. This recipe is on my blog, but it's so old that I don't think it gets very many eyes these days because it's probably not optimized for Google, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I'm doubling the recipe, but I will tell you the single version of the recipe, which is a pound of grass-fed beef. You could also use lamb or venison or, a meat of choice. And then in my recipe on my blog, it says half a cup sourdough breadcrumbs. So you could use a sourdough slice of bread, put them through a food processor, create breadcrumbs. If you don't want to do that, which I did not hear, you can use a 1/4 cup of einkorn flour or about 1/8 cup of regular flour, and that's a nice thickening agent. It will help the meatballs come together. Half a cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 large egg, 2 teaspoons Italian herbs, 1 or 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. I don't know if I said that right. Or your favorite barbecue or hot sauce. Obviously, you can get super creative here. Half a teaspoon each salt and pepper. And then, of course, you can add fresh herbs. I mean, you can add really whatever you want to this recipe. These meatballs are so, so good. I'm just adding a basic Kinder seasoning here. So I did a double batch here, and I'm combining it all with my hands. It's gonna come together really nicely, and I'm going to roll these out and bake them. You're gonna bake at 425 degrees for about 12 minutes. And I suggest using a pan with edges because depending on how fatty your meat is, you're gonna get a little bit of that fat coming out of the meatballs, and it could spill into your oven. Okay, here's a quick shot of the meatballs because this was after the party and this was all that was left. Not the best picture, but just to show you that they were fantastic. I'm just taking a quick break to clean up because with a day where you're cooking so much, it's really important to not get behind on that. Here's what the meatballs looked like when they came out of the oven, and then in a little bit I'll show you what they looked like when I had the sauce on them. I wanted to take pictures of them with the sauce, but unfortunately they got eaten just way too fast. Okay, so you saw me make the blueberry jam a little while ago, and now I'm gonna make another blueberry jam because this one is gonna be going into the frosting of the cake. So I'm getting blueberries simmering on the stove to create that natural color in my baby's cake. And now I'm going on to the next meal, which is why this was such a marathon cooking day, is I just cooked one thing after the next. We have a lot of summer squash, beautiful, beautiful squashes. I could not believe when I picked up my farmer's market haul this week, all of these beautiful peppers and squashes. So I'm gonna try to get these cooked up. We are gonna have dinner soon. So I'm at the same time preparing dinner for everybody once everyone wakes up from their nap time. Now it's time to make this cake. So it's just a 2-layer cake, and then in the middle is the blueberry jam that we made a few days ago. And then it's a buttercream frosting with a little bit more of the blueberry jam in there for a natural coloring. I was telling my mom or somebody the other day that this is just my go-to because somebody said, is this the same cake you made, for a different birthday? And I was like, yep, because especially when it comes to cakes, there are so many recipes online and baking can be tricky. You really have to find the recipe that works for you, that is both easy, enjoyable, and delicious, and that really works every time. And this is that recipe for me, so I've made it so many times. It's my go-to, but I don't think my family is tired of it because I do change the filling. Like I'll change the fruit that goes into the middle or the fruit that flavors the frosting. So with the dinner tonight, I'm going to be making some potatoes. I'm going to cut them up really small. This is actually my preferred way to eat potatoes. I love cutting them up into, I call it like breakfast potato size, drizzling them with olive oil and seasonings and roasting them. I'm going to be adding some tomatoes because we've got so many. And I've got the peppers and squash going. I've got the potatoes going. We're having my parents over for dinner, so it's a long day of cooking and we need a lot of food tonight. I was tired at the end of this day. My feet were definitely ready to be put up, and at the end of this day, after all of this cooking, I enjoyed those cookies you saw me freezing the other day. So I'm going to be making pork chops. I'm heating up the skillet with some butter and barely fitting all 4 of these pork chops. Luckily, meat does kind of condense down when you put it on the skillet. I love how much fat is on these because it's going to flavor them so well. This wasn't quite enough to feed everybody, so I also did some sausages. And between the potatoes, the sausages, the veggies, and the pork chops, we were pleasantly happy. Thank you so much for joining me for another What We Eat in a Week. If you're brand new around here, please hit that subscribe button. Every week I post a new video on farm-to-table recipes and homemade natural living. Don't forget to use my discount code below to shop Glurk Bikes to get outside and enjoy the beautiful fall weather with your kids on their bikes. Thank you so much for stopping by the Duvall Homestead.